We're here with Mayor Goldsmith, formerly Mayor of Indianapolis, Deputy Mayor of New York City, Professor of Government at Harvard, and author of the recently released Responsive City. Mayor, welcome.
Thank you.
What are some of the key lessons learned or takeaways from your tenure as mayor?
To some extent, government uses the management tools that the private sector perfects 10 years later. So in order to create accountability in government, they have lots of rules. They work in huge bureaucracies. And all they do is they kind of run faster and faster in place. So often the answers are in the public workforce, but nobody's listening. The second is that there's huge amounts of innovation in the private sector. And we get in these conversations about privatization, no privatization. That's not the right discussion at all. The discussion is, how do we merge the nonprofit sector, the for-profit sector, and government in the best possible way?
And were there any instances during your tenure in Indianapolis where you got that right, where you saw multi-sectoral partnerships in action and really delivering for citizens?
We did a lot of stuff. So we did a lot of stuff wrong, and we did a lot of stuff right. You know, I had campaigned on a platform of privatization. I got elected, and then I went to meet with the trash haulers, the solid waste guys, and my first day in office, because I was just really fearfully going to walk off the job because I thought that I was going to privatize it. And they were really big guys and really mad. I remember this vividly. So we made a deal, right? And the deal was, I won't privatize anything until I spend 6 months actually working with you. So each week I would go out with a different union and pick up the trash or fix the plumbing on public housing or pave the roads or whatever. And the men and women with whom I worked always had a better idea about how to do their job. Always had a better idea, but nobody was really listening to them. So the first lesson was, let's just unlock innovation from the inside. And the results were massively good. People began to think differently about their jobs. And so innovation needs to be around public value. That's the answer. And when we get that right, we can massively change government.
How much of unleashing innovation in government is related to better harnessing technology versus better management or the partnerships that you've spoken about?
The technology today vastly exceeds the management, organization, and leadership in place to use it. You need a leader who will kind of break through those barriers. There is a problem and opportunity in the following way. If we make government really smart through data analytics, we could increase the syndrome, which is, I'm a professional in government, I know what's in your best interest, so I'm going to design a policy that tells you what to do. Yet in the social network, we have huge amounts of information. So the true innovation is an innovation that kind of mixes the big data from inside government with the data that's available in sentiment mining and the social network. And then we can do truly kind of collaborative sourcing of solutions.
Now, I imagine that really where you start generating outcomes is not only where you have adoption from leadership, but when it filters down into every level of the bureaucracy to folks who are engaging with citizens on a day-to-day basis. I also imagine that's pretty challenging because what you're talking about is a shift in mentality, adoption of different tools. How do you most effectively affect that kind of change?
Right. So this is the most difficult question, right, which is the culture question, because we have a lot of people, blue-collar labor unions at the bottom, are pretty creative about their work if they're allowed to. And the people at the top are pretty creative about thinking about new ways. But the layers in between are not quite so flexible, right? So I think what you really need to do is have an innovation delivery unit or enterprise unit attached to the mayor's office that pushes and promotes innovation. And a culture that rewards it so that it goes up from the bottom as well.
If a mayor-elect came to see you, and I expect you probably had this conversation, and they said, Mayor Goldsmith, I'm about to assume office. Do you have 3 pieces of advice for me on how to be an effective mayor? What would you tell that person?
3 pieces?
Yeah.
I would say 1, remember you always represent the people who aren't in the room, because the people who are in the room, even if they're your friends, have a specific agenda and you have a larger agenda. 2, I'd say make sure you've developed disruptive sources of information so that no matter, even if you appoint your cabinet secretary, you need to have another voice that tells you another idea. And 3, I'd say challenge each of your agencies to name the public value that they think they're creating and then determine whether their KPIs or performance indicators actually produce those values.
Mayor Goldsmith, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.